Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lori Van Heeren. I'm the Deputy Director of the Independent Redistricting Commission. This morning, we are joined by the commissioners, and Commissioner Meal is going to be the chair of the meeting. Our interpreter is having a little trouble getting parking right now, so as soon as she comes into the building, we will introduce her to everyone and make sure that she was available and present. So I will turn it over now to Commissioner Meal.
I now call to order the virtual town hall, Southern and Eastern Arizona. Staff will describe the format of the meeting. There's a transcriptionist who'll be recording every word, so please speak slowly and clearly so we have a clear record of your input. At this time, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm David Meal, and I'm a commissioner from Pima County.
Hi, everyone. This is Chairwoman Newberg. I'm from Chandler, and it's great to be with everybody again.
Hello, I am Shireen Lerner, Commissioner from Maricopa County. Thank you for being here.
And now the staff will describe the format of the meeting and read the rules.
Thank you, Commissioner Meal. So we have allotted time for 60 speakers to speak. We've given preference to anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to speak before. Speakers are given 2 minutes each, and each speaker is timed by staff. 3 speakers will be unmuted at a time. Please do not begin until your name is called. You will be muted after your 2 minutes. Staff is timing everyone. In the chat box, we will list the names of the next 10 speakers. You must be logged in under the name you used to register in order to speak. We cannot decipher first names only or just email addresses or usernames that are not consistent with what you used as the name to register. So if you did not log in under that name, please log out and log back in under that name. At least your first name and last initial. The chat box helps us to navigate who is speaking and if anybody is having audio issues. If you would like to submit a public comment, do not use the chat box. Please go to irc.az.gov. In compliance with Arizona's open meeting law, speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and/or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of the peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be the cause of report to law enforcement. If you have already spoken or someone has made the same comment you wish to make, you do not need to speak in order to be heard. Your comments have all been recorded. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and the commission and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission must hear all sides of an issue to make an informed decision. So we'll now read the names of the first speakers. And I believe the first one is going to be Mayor Craig McFarland, then Francis Ladd, and then Virginia Abel. And if you'll just give us 1 second to unmute everyone. Mayor McFarland, please, can you hear us?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much to the commissioners for listening to us. We appreciate it. As far as I'm just here to speak on Legislative District 16, which in its current form, and after talking with some staff, with some changes they've made, I don't have the current map, but I am in favor of that. Just wanted to at least acknowledge that with the IRC. So thank you very much for that. As far as District 6, our Cd6, I think there were some changes that were made also on it. And what I was recommending that they include the city of Maricopa in that district, if at all possible. And other than that, I think they made some changes to include Eloy and Arizona City, which makes good sense in terms of that being kind of a Pinellas-centric district. I know it also includes some of the more rural counties, so like Sierra Vista, Aqua Prieta, and all that. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in there, and if they could include the Maricopa piece, City of Maricopa, not county, obviously, and that would be my recommendation. And appreciate you listening to my comments.
Thank you. And we are just searching for our next 3 speakers. Give me just one. Okay, and so Virginia Abel and then Joseph Holdman. Virginia, can you hear us? Virginia? Okay, if Joseph Holden is ready. Joseph, can you hear us? Diane, can you hear us?
Hello?
Okay, I've got it. All right, so Joseph Holden, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, I strongly support the Southern Arizona portion of draft map 10 that as it relates to LD 17. I live in the Houghton corridor, and I do most of my activities in this area, and I associate with people in this vicinity, and mostly in Vail. And I like the way that map is configured. I think it gives us representation with people with similar interest. And I shop here, and I dine out here, and so forth. And anyway, that's what I support. So, and I've talked to my neighbors, and they like it as well. So that's really about all that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Diane Neben and then Virginia Abel.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Dear Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I am looking at the stats for the legislative district's draft map, and in particular LD2 in my area. I noticed the population is at 250,000, the highest of any other LD, and outside of the constitutional guidance of a proposition to fix LD2 and correct the disproportionate population, and at the same time support the Voters' Rights Act as well as a previous community of interest comment. Now, my proposition is that you move Sunny Slope into LD1. This move will achieve 3 things. First, support the Voters' Rights Act, a very important federal law designed to allow minorities the opportunity to elect the candidate of their choice. Sunny Slope is mostly minorities, mainly Hispanic. Right now, the Hispanic voters percentage in LD2 is only 19%, as compared to LD1, which is 27%. This will ensure that LD1 becomes a VRA district and Hispanic voices are represented properly. Number 2, this will equalize the 10,000 population overage from LD2 into LD1. LD2 would go from 250,000 to 240,000, while LD1 would go from 231,000 to 241,000. This is in line with the Arizona Constitution. Number 3, it would ensure communities of interest are represented correctly. As I've stated before, the Sunny Slope community is very different from the northern communities of LD2 and would not be properly represented. I want to thank you again for considering.
Thank you. And at this time, the next speaker will be Virginia Abel.
Good
Virginia,
morning.
can you hear us?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. I am, well, like you said, Virginia Abel. I live in LD3. I was raised in Southern California and moved to Tucson in 1975. Since 1978, we have lived outside the city limits, and I am in full support of the concerns expressed by by my husband that he expressed previously and may express later. I would like to emphasize, though, my main concern for our family were the ability to share and participate in common interests in the education of our child, opportunity and access to worship, and the responsibility and privilege of voting for lawmakers and legislation that would consider all concerns of constituents. We were excluded from voting in city elections and initiatives due to how our district was created. I was employed by the Flowing Wells School District for 19 years as a school teacher and career counselor. We were unable to participate in bond elections and in our respective school districts. Future educational initiatives that are being considered in our community are paramount. I believe that the proposed redistricting map would allow diversity of point of view and better represents those living in northern Pima County. Thank you for the time and dedication in serving our community. May God continue to bless our country and the Constitution that allows citizens to participate in self-governance through the election of representatives that serve the people with integrity. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we will have our Spanish interpreter introduce herself.
Good morning, my name is Gagne, or afternoon, sorry. Gagne Camacho, I am a Spanish interpreter. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gagne Camacho y soy intérprete de español para servirle. Gracias.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Lyle Ulrich, followed by Sherry Lynn Young. Lyle, can you hear us?
I can.
Please proceed.
Yes, my name is Lyle Aldridge. I live in Tucson on the far northeast side in the Tanque Verde area. My concern at the moment is with the current proposal for Cd6 and 7, which have split the city of Tucson into 2 districts, which are essentially going to be dominated by the voters of the city. The city only has a population of about 600,000 people, perhaps less than that, and yet it will be dominating an area with population of 2 districts, about 1.6 million people. I believe a map recommendation entitled Fair Cd6 and Cd7 was submitted about a week ago, and I would very much commend it to the commission for consideration. And that's about all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sherry Lynn Young.
Yes, my name is Cheryl Young. I've lived for 35 years in the Tanque Verde Valley area. I would like to say that when the Legislative District 9 maps came out, we were very upset because our issues had not been addressed. However, the most recent 10.0 maps seem to be addressing our issues and giving us representation that we have not had for the past 10 years. I would like to say that I stand with the citizens of LD 17 and very much like this legislative district. I would also like to address the Cd6 and Cd7. Again, I agree with Mr. Aldridge that the city of Tucson should not be divided so that they can contaminate both congressional districts of southern Arizona. As it stands, Cd6 has focal elections that have 9 Democrats and no Republicans, and Cd6 has focal elections that show 6 Democrats and only 3 Republicans. So the whole of southern Arizona is going to have 15 Democrats and 3 Republicans in focal elections. I don't think that this is competitive, and I think that the city of Tucson should be completely within Cd7. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brandon Martineau, followed by JP Martin, followed by Thomas Fisk. Brandon, can you hear us?
I can. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I live in Heber, Arizona, the White Mountains, and I see a problem with the last redistricting commission that reaches into our mountain communities and just takes sections of our communities and puts them in with sections in bigger towns like Flagstaff or Gilbert or some of those outlying cities in the valley, and that essentially erases any voice that we have in the mountains. What I'm advocating for is to have a true rural Arizona district that would include the White Mountains and down across central eastern Arizona. These communities are communities of interest. Our schools interact together. We go to church together. We have similar interests all down through the Copper Corridor. These are farming, ranching, mining communities that have similar values, and I feel like these communities are large enough to represent their own district and not include these areas in the valley that essentially rob us of our voice because of the population difference. And I feel like it's time for rural Arizona to have their voice in the Senate and the legislature by having a true rural Arizona district that only includes mountain communities, farming communities, and ranching communities. And thank you for allowing me to talk today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is JP Martin. JP, can you unmute yourself? We've sent you the request. There you are.
Chair Newberg. My name is JP Martin, and for 1 year, I was an associate member of SALC with Commissioner Meal. I consider them the Southern Arizona Laziness Council. Chair Newberg, I come before you today with a sincere concern for the reckless proposed legislative map. If this map moves forward, I will live in District 17 along with some hard right zealots in Vail who are incubating the ugliest kind of hate speech. Yes, Chair Newberg, there are hate groups brewing in Vail. If the Independent Redistricting Commission gifts them a ruby red district, then these extremist, anti-Semitic, and violently anti-government insurrectionists will try to represent me at the Capitol. This goes against the Commission's value to respect communities of interest for the predictable extent. There are real seditionists who live 90 minutes from me, gathering weekly at a coffee spot, and I could not in good consciousness stay quiet when I found out the intent of Map 9.2 was to create a gerrymandered District 17 so there would be an exclusive Republican district for Metro Tucson. These folks have shown up to school districts to arrest superintendents, shut down school board meetings, and continue to evangelize using nationalist language. Please don't let business organizations follow the toxic practice of keeping bad middle managers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Thomas Fisk. Tom, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Fisk, and I live in the Quail Creek community in Sahuarita Township for the past 12 years. I strongly support the Southern Arizona Legislative District 19 as defined in LD Map 10.0. Quail Creek, as an active adult retirement community, has much in common with the adjacent Green Valley to Rio Rico retirement communities, as well as with the Sierra Vista retirement communities. While we pursue numerous activities within our close-knit respective communities, there is also significant interaction between these retirement communities, such as golf, pickleball, biking, hiking, arts, and crafts. Also, we all utilize common food stores, automotive and restaurant services, medical and hospital services, as well as numerous worship locations. Our retirement communities comprise essentially small towns, much like the common small towns which make up most of LD 19 in draft map 10.0. Also, we are established, successful, independent individuals not too dissimilar to the ranchers and farmers scattered throughout LD 19. For these reasons, it makes sense for the Quail Creek community to reside in Legislative District 19 as defined in LD Draft Map 10.0. Separately, with respect to CD, I'm just looking at that. I see much similarity of why Quail Creek and Green Valley areas should be moved from CD7 to CD6, which is largely similar to LD17. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Shelly Keith. Shelly, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. And commissioners, thank you for your time. It is again quite an opportunity to participate in the governance that we're seeing here today. I speak first. I want to save us some time today. So for everything that Tom Fisk just said, ditto. I too live in Precinct 84 in the community of Quail Creek, and Tom has represented us well with his comments. My major concern, of course, is the congressional map that demonstrates where Quail Creek would be aligned over to Yuma to include some of the TO Nation, as well as including us into a VRA community. It just does not make sense on many levels. So I am in support of the legislative district map 10 and would request that the Quail Creek, Green Valley area be taken out of the congressional map. I also speak on behalf of the legislative district up in LD17. I think that district is drawn to communities of interest. And one of the things, having attended all of the hearings, one of the things that has become very clear is that the people outside of the city of Tucson do not want to be linked in with the city of Tucson. So if I may just reiterate, I support Tom Fisk's statements for Precinct 84, and I support LD 17. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Fred Milner, Jean Sabalas, and Dana Allman. Fred, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
All right. I just want to thank you for your hard work and diligence in performing this task. I'm coming from Nogales, and I'm going to be talking to you about LD 21 Draft 10. My family's been part of this community since before statehood. We've been ranchers and businessmen with strong ties to Nogales on both sides of the border. From the founding of this Republic of the United States, the voice of we the people has been our guiding principle. The House of Representatives, combined with the Senate, the Electoral College, ensure that not just the voice of populous cities will be heard, but that each candidate would take into account the less populous communities. And so the reason the map that I'm talking about, LD 21, creates a poorly drawn district which seems designed to diminish the vote of our county and people. It also breaks up the unity of our county. I'm not sure who's trying to dilute or diminish our voice. I think more in keeping of with your goals and your guidelines would be to combine the entirety of Santa Cruz and Cochise counties. Southern Arizona border communities have a unique makeup, culture, and history. Here you have ranchers, cowboys, wineries, communities tied together with culture, religion, and family values. Proximity to the Mexican border and culture draws and keeps many to our sense of family, stability, and vision. So as you think about where to draw the lines, I urge you to bolster the strong voice of these border communities of interest. Please unite Santa Cruz and Cochise counties as one block of citizens which hold to very similar values. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jean Sabalas. Jean, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the commissioners for serving in this capacity. I think we can be very proud of living in a state that has an independent commission to do the redistricting. So thank you for the tough job that you're doing. My husband and I have been full-time residents of Green Valley since 2018. I have been coming to Green Valley since 1978. I have always considered Green Valley and Sahuarita to be one and the same. You can't tell where one stops and the other begins. That's where I do all my shopping, have my hair done, take my pets, get pet food, get gas. That is the community that I feel a part of. And so I would like to ask the commission to keep Green Valley in with Sahuarita in District 21. Years ago, we went to Tombstone and Bisbee as tourists, but I don't consider them to be part of our community. So I would like to stay in District 21 with Sahuarita. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dana Allman. Dana, can you unmute yourself? And then the next speaker is Sydney Chase. Same thing. Sydney, can you unmute yourself? Oh, we see you, Dana.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Dana Allman, and I'm a Marana resident in the current LD11. I'm a mother of 4 children, veteran, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel with more than 23 years of active duty service. I'm a 1994 West Point graduate and lifelong veteran advocate. My fellow veterans and I care about redistricting. I totally reject the Independent Redistricting Commission approved draft map for LD 17, which violates the Arizona State Constitution. It is blatantly obvious that this map is designed to prevent competitive districts. Candidates must work for resident votes. Voters pick their representatives. Competitiveness is essential to our democracy. This LD 17 draft map is not geographically compact and contiguous with a mountain range splitting the district. This heavily gerrymandered draft map to ensure a Republican safe district indicates a strong fear of free and fair elections. I call on the IRC members to reject this draft map and approve the LD 17 map version 9.0, which is in compliance with the Arizona State Constitution. Thank you so much for your attention today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sydney Chase. Sydney, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah, I'm really new to all of this, and I'm not very, oh boy, I can't throw around the LDs and all that. The thing that most concerns me is it just looks really odd. I live in Green Valley. I've lived here for 20 years. I heard someone say we had a lot in common with Sierra Vista and other, but I don't go over there. This is my community, Sahuarita, South Tucson, occasionally Nogales. But so my understanding is we want to keep like people. Again, I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to do, other than what I keep hear people saying is we need to keep our interests in our communities together. This map looks really odd to me, to have Green Valley not be part of Sahuarita and to have us aligned with Sierra Vista, Tombstone. Those are completely different communities than here. And I keep hearing there's this word gerrymandering, that they draw odd lines to give an advantage. And I keep hearing the Republicans are trying to get an advantage. So I just want to make sure it makes sense. So I live in Green Valley. All my work is here. I don't go to Sierra Vista. I don't go to Tombstone. I don't go to Bisbee except as a tourist. This is my community, and I want to be with the people that are part of my community, which is Sahuarita, South Tucson, and I want to make sure it's fair. So just on the surface, it looks odd. It looks gerrymandered. So I just want to share those comments and hope you'll take them into consideration. And thank you for all your work and service. This is hard work, and you've got a lot of opinions, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next 3 speakers are Tim Faulkner, Lee Stanfield, and Lavoy Hurley. Tim, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Hello, my name's Tim Faulkner. My wife and I live in Elgin, Arizona. The commissioner, they've done a great job on the LD map by placing Elgin, Sonoyta area in LD 19, which I believe most of the residents here will be very pleased with. I also support Shelly Keith and Tom Fisk assessments also, though the CD map needs some work. First, the Elgin Sonoyta area needs to be placed in Cd6 to align with the proposed LD 19 map. Second, remove the areas inside the city limits of Tucson from the proposed CD map, Cd6 map. Eastern rural Pima County outside the city limits would be a fine addition in CD6. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lee Stanfield. Lee, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. The IRC is legally mandated to create fair and competitive congressional and legislative districts. That's the wording, quote. So legally, the IRC cannot choose to implement either MAP 9.1 or 9.2, since both violate the fundamental legal mandate for precisely why the IRC was created. It was publicly expressed that the reason for creating what is drawn as District 17 on 9.1 and 9.2 maps was to create a safe Republican district. That's so the goal of making a district safe for any political party is the exact opposite of the IRC's legal mandate, because safe means non-competitive. Therefore, maps 9.1 and 9.2 are in blatant violation of the IRC's mandate. In addition, 9.1 and 9.2 also divide up Santa Cruz County in such a way that it'll allow the Patagonia Mountains and the Coronado Forest to be part of LD 19. This would allow the strongly pro-mining LD legislators to give the go-ahead to the mining interests plan to remove 1.6 billion gallons of groundwater every year for 4 years just to uncover the minerals below the groundwater for mining. Now, this is the watershed that serves all of Santa Cruz County and Green Valley. So please pass MAP 9.0, which keeps Santa Cruz County and also Pinal County whole and undivided. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lavoy Hurley. Lavoy, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you for the time. My name is Lavoy Hurley. My wife and I live in the unincorporated areas of the Tanque Verde Valley. I support version 10.0. 10 years ago, the commission gave a disservice to Southern Arizona, and we've had no representation in Phoenix for the last 10 years. Version 9 would simply continue that failed experiment. Version 10 gives us a balance of a representation in Phoenix, no matter who's in charge. I also want to say that I do not want to be part of Tucson. A couple of years ago, my wife and I returned from a vacation, driving up Bear Canyon Road, and suddenly the road got quiet. The next day, I went out and saw a brand new road, asphalt, courtesy of the county on Bear Canyon Road. We stopped at the city line. Last year in COVID, my neighborhood, county again, got brand new streets. 2 blocks away, my friends who got conned into an annexation of the city 5 years ago on the promise of new streets, better fire, better police. Still don't have new streets. They're terrible. And if you've been paying attention, I think you know about the problems Tucson has had with the fire and police. Ladies and gentlemen, the folks of Saddlebrook, all the way down to Vail, I have friends all over the place. Please, we want to stay out of Tucson, and we want representation regardless of who's in Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 3 speakers will be Rodney Carlson, Brianna Ortega, and Nancy Goodman. Rodney, can you hear us? Rodney? Looks like you're unmuted. Okay, we will come back. And then Brianna Ortega. Brianna, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Brianna Ortega. I am an attorney who lives in Tubac. I work in Nogales, and I also grew up in Morenci and Clifton, Arizona in Greenlee County. Today, I'm urging the commission to keep Santa Cruz County whole. At the very least, the commissioner needs to ensure that Tubac is kept within the same legislative district as Nogales and Rio Rico. As an attorney, I represent people and commercial entities throughout Santa Cruz County. Several times a week, I drive to Nogales. I also travel to Patagonia and Sonoita to meet clients there who own businesses or private land. However, I have never represented people in Greenlee and Grand counties, ever. First, it would be geographically infeasible for me to do so because those areas are separated by large mountain ranges, and to get there takes a significant amount of time. Second, the legal issues and the policy issues that face the communities in Graham and Greenlee County and those that face in Santa Cruz County are entirely different. Greenlee and Graham counties have a lot of federal land, and a lot of legal disputes arise from that publicly owned land. In Santa Cruz County, legal disputes largely involve the border, the community there, the private commercial disputes between real estate developers and the produce companies throughout Rio Rico. They are entirely different issues that these communities face. More importantly, the communities themselves are different. I grew up in Morenci and Clifton throughout my childhood. Those communities are blue-collar workers and families who work for the mine, rent their homes from the mine. Tubac, on the other hand, is populated by people with white-collar jobs and has a significant retired community. Since moving out of Morenci in 2007, I have returned to the area only on one occasion. The communities are entirely different. They are not the same. They are not similar. Therefore, I'm urging the commission to keep Santa Cruz County whole, or at the very least, ensure that Tubac is kept within the same district as Rio Rico and Nogales, because as a person who lives in Tubac and works in Nogales, I see those.
Thank you. Okay, and before we move to our next speaker, which will be Nancy Goodman, I just wanted to let the commissioners know that Rodney Carlson was having trouble with his mic on his computer, but he did submit a map under his name on the IRC's website. So he just wanted to let the commissioners know that there is a map there for you to review. So the next speaker is Nancy Goodman. Nancy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Awesome. My name is Nancy Goodman, and I've lived in Oro Valley for 8 years. I'm speaking in favor of LD 17 Draft Map 9.0 and in opposition to Map 10.0. Draft Map 9.0 creates a fair and competitive LD 17 in keeping with the voter-approved and constitutionally required criteria for creating legislative maps. Each LD must have at least close to equal population. Map 9.0 will have a 4.85% deviancy, well below the 10% limit. Map 9 is geographically compact and contiguous. It is essentially a rectangle and even includes some sparsely populated areas of the Catalina Mountains. Draft Map 9.0 respects communities of interest, which include Oro Valley, Marana, Casas Adobes, Rito, and the Catalina foothills. Each is classified urban-suburban, and they share water sources and development concerns, as well as transportation corridors of I-10 and Route 77 Oracle Road. And Oro Valley and Casas Adobes are in the same amphitheater school district. LD 17 Map 9.0 utilizes visible geographic features and city boundaries with the majority of the LD in Pima County. It also follows the Catalina Mountains and the Rito River as a border with another LD. It respects municipal boundaries and does not split towns. LD 17 Draft Map 9.0 would be a very competitive district with a 1.1 voter spread. According to the Pima County Recorder's Office, the Oro Valley party registration mirrors the state. Oro Valley should be in a competitive district. The proposed Draft Map 10.0 does none of these things and is not in accordance with the IRC rules. 10 years ago, Oro Valley and not even the entire town was stuffed into a gimme for Republicans as the non-competitive gerrymandered LD11. Draft Map 10 is another shameful attempt to create yet another non-competitive district, and it is the express responsibility of the IRC to put a stop to this. Draft Map 9.0 is fair and competitive and should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers are going to be Margaret Hendrickson, Francesca Pardes, and then then Francis Glad. Margaret, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
So this is Margaret Hendrickson. I've been living in Green Valley since 2004, and I'm echoing some of the concerns related to Green Valley that I have heard from a couple of other speakers, and that is that Green Valley, Sahuarita, and Quail Creek are a unit that functions together in many walks of life in many ways. We worship, play, work, serve, shop together in that area. As I have been listening to other speakers and looking at this map, I've become increasingly disturbed because I do travel to those areas in District 19, you know, for camping trips or to view mountains or to see wildlife. That area has nothing to do with where we live here in this populated area that's a community and much more related to Tucson than to any of the wilderness frontier areas to our east. So I would just really ask the commissioners to take a look at that more closely. We cannot be separated from our real community, which is not only defined by our boundaries, but also by physical mountain ranges. It's kind of a separate area and should be held together. So thank you very, very much for listening to my comments today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Francesca Pardes. Francesca, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. I thank you for providing an opportunity to participate in today's event. I appreciate the time and effort put forth to create fair and competitive LD and CDs to the extent practicable, but I do have a problem with MAP 10.0. In 2008, the Supreme Court ruled that the goal of competitiveness cannot be ignored, and in the proposed LD 17 draft map, I believe it is ignored, and it's also not compact nor contiguous, and it separates suburbs from opposite ends of Tucson by a mountain range and a long drive. But as a result of proposed LD 17, I now live in LD 21, which is different than LD 10, which I had been. And it's been gerrymandered, and it separates core central Tucson neighborhoods from the rest of the city. It also shares much of this area from a previously competitive LD 10, and I believe that competitiveness promotes engagement. And LD 21 goes south to within miles of the border, encompassing many rural towns and cities in a large swath of southern Arizona that have little in common with Tucson, and I believe vice versa. It is also not geographically compact, and it does not use city, town, and county boundaries. It also doesn't respect communities of interest to the extent possible. In central Tucson, communities of interest include established neighborhoods and their associations that have shared economic, educational, cultural, and historical interests. I believe it's best for the areas of central Tucson to be included in what was District 18 on the last map, because I think it's, as a citizen of Tucson for several decades, I believe we have more in common with the Tucson area than we do with that swath.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frances Glad. Frances, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Thank you. Well, thank you for taking on this monumentally important task of redistricting. The weight of having to think of every single Arizonan in a fair and balanced way feels to be a difficult task, but I have all the confidence that you will be successful. My name is Frances Glad, and I am a native too and current resident of Santa Cruz County. I have two sons, one is 7 years old. I have two granddaughters, and I'm fortunate to have a close-knit extended family of 65 in and spread out through Santa Cruz. So our roots are deep here. We are part of the minority majority. Santa Cruz is a community of interest. I mentioned before that dividing Santa Cruz would be like dividing a household because most everyone knows each other, if not in person, at least by name. Our home is rich with art, history, nature, areas that need to be protected, business big and small, trade routes, entrepreneurship, schools, clubs, religion, strong family values, and a unique culture. We depend on each other. We care about the quality of life, clean air, water. We care about having a booming economy. Therefore, we fully understand the importance of the symbiotic relationship that exists between Mexico and Santa Cruz. A relationship that continues through the I-19 corridor, through Green Valley, and to Tucson. I fear that our minority voice has been nullified and that what we want for our home and how we want to be represented cannot be achieved with the map that you have chosen for us. Please reconsider. Please keep all of Santa Cruz County and the I-19 corridor together within one district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next three speakers are George, Peggy, and Merrill. George, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to encourage you to adapt map LD0055, placing Green Valley in District 21. My name is George McGaffey, and I live here in Green Valley in District 19, where I shop and then go to church in Sahuarita, District 21, splitting our communities in half. I believe District 19 in the legislative map 10.0 is concerning. Its design disregards some of the goals of redistricting set out in the Arizona Constitution, instead serves the goals of creating a safe Republican district in a predominantly Democratic county. The goal is not in our Arizona Constitution. District 19 is not compact and continuous to the extent practicable. It is made up of select Republican-leaning suburbs from opposing ends of the Tucson area that's separated by a mountain range and a long, long drive. Designing District 19 to create a safe Republican district violates the Constitution requirements that, to the extent practicable, competitive districts should be favored, where to do so would create no significant deterrent to the other goals. Democratic Commissioner Lerner proposed an alternative version of District 17 that was highly competitive, but it was rejected on the grounds that it failed to create a safe Republican district. Many of the constitutional points about the proposed LD 17 can be said of Green Valley's position in LD 19 in the maps version you support. I am in here today to encourage you to adopt the map LD 0055, placing Green Valley in District 21. I thank you for your time and your hard work and services.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Peggy Pena. Peggy, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, my name is Peggy Pena, and I'm a retired letter carrier. I moved to Arizona in 1969 to go to ASU and moved to Cochise County in 1997. I mainly carried mail in Wilcox, and my husband worked for the National Park Service. Like many people in Cochise County, we live in an unincorporated area on a number of acres with animals. My television channels are from Tucson. I go to Costco, major stores, and the movies in the Tucson area. Many of our friends either live or eventually moved to the Vail or the eastern Tucson area, which is also known as the bedroom community for Cochise County. Because of the above community interest in Cochise County, I would like to see the commission adopt a map for Legislative District 19, similar to LD Draft Map 9.0. This map keeps Santa Cruz County intact and includes areas going north of that county line that have similar rural residential areas as Cochise County, including Vail and the Sorrow National Park areas. I would also like the commission to adopt a more compact Congressional District 6 map. Our area has nothing in common with Casa Grande and Eloy, for they are tied to the Phoenix area. I have submitted a map CDF001. It keeps Cochise County intact, and like the legislative map, starts at the Santa Cruz County border, moving north to include similar communities of interest in eastern Pima and southern Pinal County. It keeps Fort Huachuca in the same district as the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. It also keeps Sororo National Park with the parks in Cochise County. I have voted in every election since 1969. I would appreciate it if the commission would create competitive districts so that my vote counts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Merrill Livesey. Merrill, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I'm here to voice my support for LD Map 10.0. I believe this map meets the goal of uniting communities of interest. I live in Picture Rocks, and we are in District 16, which unites us with a lot of other rural areas, and I think that's a good fit for us. I also find that most of my friends and people with common interests live in like Green Valley, Tank Verde, Marana, and I think it makes absolute perfect sense the way you created District 17. And I also know that people in Green Valley, my friends and family, do not want to be in with Tucson. So I thank you very much for 10.0, and I hope that will be the final map. As far as the CD maps, I think it's horrible the way the last one I saw, where you split Tucson in half, and Tucson's going to rule everybody. Picture Rocks and Avra Valley is separated from Marana in this map, and that's where our kids go to school, where we shop, where we eat, where we have friends. And I really hope that you will make some changes to the congressional district maps so Tucson doesn't dominate all of southern Arizona. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next three speakers are Raphael Illy, Robert Abel, and Cheryl Lamana. Raphael, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, I'd like to say version 9 of the draft LD maps is terrible. Communities of similar interest are separated. Please don't use it. Version 10 maps are good for Southern Arizona, satisfying legal requirements and representing well the various communities of interest. Please make no changes other than perhaps requested minor line shifts between districts. Partisan competitive districts are not needed because communities of interest can and must be kept together. Therefore, I would say keep Marana, Oro Valley, Tanque Verde, and Vail together in LD 17. Geography and ease of travel matters little. Having like interests represented in the same districts is all that matters. The approved CD map 7.1 looks reasonable for Arizona as a whole, but there are problems with Cd6 and Cd7 in Southern Arizona. Splitting the city in half has the unfair effect of putting large city populations in each district. So only Tucson, minority communities, and Native American reservations are represented. Suburban and rural communities are unrepresented. This is done by putting them in the same districts with urban minority and Native American interests that outnumber them. Tucson has only 543,000 people in the census, and adding Native American and Hispanic communities like South Tucson and Yuma adds up to less than 800,000 people, less than one CD. Today, these communities are controlling 2 CDs and getting double representation. It is logical and fair to keep these protected and like-minded communities together in only one CD, the Western CD7. Likewise, it's logical and fair that remaining suburban and rural communities be placed together in one CD, Cd6, to the south, east, and north of Tucson with nearly 800,000 people. I submitted a map called Fair Cd6 and 7 Plan, meeting these and all legally required criteria. Please use it as it represents a better alternative to what you currently have. Thank you for your service to the people and the state of Arizona, and good luck in completing your difficult task. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker was going to be Cheryl Lamana, but we got a message that she's a calling user. Unfortunately, we can't distinguish based on telephone. We don't get the information on what when someone logs in as a call-in user. In order to speak, you have to be registered under the name that you use to, or you have to be logged in under the name you use to register. We'll move to the next speaker, which is Dale Winders. Dale, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you, commissioners, for all your hard work. Again, my name's Dale Winders. I'm a registered voter who owns my home in an unincorporated portion of Pima County, just north of Oro Valley. I'm attending this meeting to let you know that I strongly support final draft map 10.0, Legislative District 17, because it's fair, competitive, and truly represents my community of interest. Many years ago, my wife and I very deliberately chose to live outside of the city of Tucson because we love the rural lifestyle and because politically, we have nothing in common with the ideology of the overwhelming majority of the voters of the city of Tucson. Just one of many examples is the fact that during the looting and rioting last year by Antifa and Black Lives Matters across America, many Tucson voters were loudly beating the drum to defund the Tucson Police Department. In direct contrast, the overwhelming majority of those of us who live outside of Tucson would just love to give our beloved law enforcement heroes a big fat raise in pay, rather than defunding their heroic efforts to protect we the people from criminals. Unincorporated Pima County and the smaller towns need a voice in our elections during the next 10 years. So please, please approve final draft map 10.0 Legislative District 17, which will provide my community of interest with that voice. Thank you for this opportunity to share my concerns with you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers are David McKibben, Amy Gagne, and then Bonnie Haymore. David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. I strongly support the Southern Arizona portion of draft map 10.0 that relates to the legislative district 17. This district combines Marana, Oro Valley, Saddlebrook, the Tanque Verde Valley, and the Houghton Corridor. Although these communities are separated by a mountain, they share more in common than they do with the city of Tucson. Other legislative districts are separated by mountains and even state lines, but they are combined by their common community of interest. Like Marana, Tanque Verde, and the Houghton Corridor prefer a more rural and family-friendly lifestyle. In my neighborhood of Hidden Vista Hills, which is located on the east side of Tucson, my family enjoys our hobbies and outdoor adventures on the east side of the city, and we usually avoid downtown Tucson or the more urban areas of the city. Legislative District 17 provides a check and balance politically in Tucson and a fair representation in Phoenix. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. The next speaker is Amy. Amy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Hello, my name is Amy Gagne. I've been a Tucson resident for more than 37 years, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My husband and I live off Speedway between Pantano and Kolb and have easy access to many businesses and restaurants. My husband can walk to his doctor's office. We have family members, friends, and neighbors we can easily get together with for socializing, for volunteering, and so importantly, for caretaking. In the current draft map V10, my community will be in LD 18, which stretches to the edge of Oro Valley and cuts off everything east of Harrison. I only occasionally drive to Oro Valley. It's 45 minutes to an hour away, depending on traffic. I use the Houghton Road corridor much more frequently. Draft map V9 strengthens my community of interest and provides boundaries that are more compact, contiguous, and competitive. My busy sister is a teacher in Vail. As Vail has grown, she can conveniently shop there, but she does need to travel west to Tucson to meet her larger needs. She would never consider driving to Oro Valley or Marana for errands because it's at least an hour or more away. And yet the currently proposed draft map V10 places Vail, Tanque Verde, Oro Valley, and Marana in one huge district divided by the Catalina Mountains. How does this proposed district adhere to the constitutional requirements of being a community of interest, compact, or contiguous? In creating a safe haven for one political party, how does it fulfill the requirements of being a competitive district? Proposed draft map V9 much more closely adheres to the IRC's constitutional requirements by creating districts that more closely represent communities of interest and are more compact, continuous, and competitive than current map V10. Please support V9 and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tracy Bunker-Metz. Tracy? Oh, it looks like we lost Tracy. After Tracy is going to be David Williams. David, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Williams. My family and I have lived in the Tanque Verde Valley area of Tucson for more than 20 years. Thanks for the opportunity to address you today about District 17 as it appears in your adopted draft legislative map. I'm very much against the proposed design because, first of all, of its sprawling, non-contiguous shape, but most importantly, because of its lack of competitiveness. I'm sure you would agree that successful democracy is based on energetic competition of ideas and candidates. And if so, then in our Arizona system of organizing democracy into districts, if we favor one party over another to create a safe district, we're in effect working against democracy. Ideally, all 30 districts would be competitive, but we're way beyond that. In the past, we created what you might call a legacy of fiefdoms of perpetual empowerment. Of the 30 districts, 24 are now considered safe. The problem with that is that winning candidates in safe districts can be more relaxed, less worried, and less responsive. How does that serve us well? I want my representatives to feel accountable and concerned about the well-being of our district all the time. That's their job. So I'm requesting that you reject the safe district rationale of the adopted map in favor of actual democracy by adopting Commissioner Lerner's LD test map version 9.0. It's much more compact, contiguous, and competitive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, it looks like Tracy is back. Tracy, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Tracy, go ahead.
Hi, I live up here in well, what would be LD or what is it? I'm sorry, in LD 17. If the 10 map is adopted. Dale Winders spoke very eloquently. I agree and support everything that he said, also along with Tom Fitz. You know, those two men being more eloquent than I can be at this point in time. I would like to use their words to express my opinion on the draft map for 10. And if you could support the draft map for 10, that would be great. My husband and I moved up here into Catalina just a year ago to get further away from the influences of the city of Tucson. I really don't want to have anything to do with Tucson besides driving along the outskirts of it. You know, the community of interest up here, I think, is, you know, people who like the rural area, who like being away from the cacophony of chaos and crime that is in the city of Tucson, the disrespect that is shown to the citizens of Tucson from the city council. Like I said previously, I would like to stay away from there and have the map 10 adopted, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Robert Abel.
Oh. And you
yes, Robert, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Bob Abel, and I strongly support the Southern Arizona portion of draft map 10.0 that relates to LD 17. Our families lived in Rancho del Cerro subdivision for 35 years. Our beautiful rural subdivision borders Sweetwater Preserve in Pima County, but our neighborhood kids go to Tucson schools, which makes no sense at all. The kids in subdivisions north of us go to Flowing Wells and Marana schools. Most of the churches, hospitals, restaurants, and other amenities that support our lifestyle are in Marana and Morro Valley, not the city of Tucson. For the last 30 years, we could not vote on initiatives and candidates that are supposed to be representing our community based on the old map. We cannot vote in any Tucson elections. This is clearly taxation without representation. Our neighborhood has not been equitably represented with dissimilar communities in LD3. In my opinion, the last redistricting map violated the Voting Rights Act by not respecting communities of interest. Because we live outside the city limits of Tucson, we cannot even get our candidate on the ballot to oppose an 18-year incumbent that cares more about the inner city in South Tucson than communities to the north and east. In conclusion, with this new proposal for LD 17, our interests with our neighbors in rural areas of Pima County will finally be represented. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And it looks like Cheryl Lamana was able to log in. We just sent you a request to unmute. Can you unmute yourself, Cheryl? There you go.
Hear me?
Yes, please repeat. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Lamana, and I live in Oro Valley. Thank you so much, Commissioners and Chair, for endeavoring to ensure fair maps that are based solely on not based solely on competitiveness. Many of us in Southern Arizona have been denied a voice for the past 10 years since the last gerrymandered redistricting occurred. So we really do, that you are taking the time to listen to us. I strongly support the current LD17 map. Those of us who live in Oro Valley, Marana, Saddlebrook Ranch, and the Houghton Corridor chose these suburban communities for the common reasons. We wanted a peaceful lifestyle with public safety, good schools, convenient shopping and restaurants, views and open space, well-maintained roads, and good medical care. And we can find all of this within these communities. We have no need or interest to go into Tucson or other urban areas. The city of Tucson doesn't share these interests and priorities. As has been said before, we've got nothing in common with them, and we don't belong in the same LD or CD with them. And that's why it's so important to align our communities of interest as you've done on the LD17 version 10 map. Geography and other arguments that you've heard today shouldn't sway you to make any changes to it. Our similar interests must be the deciding factor. We're entitled to the voice we've been denied for so long and appreciate your efforts to make that happen. Thanks so much.
Next three speakers are Amy Matheo, Cheryl Purvis, and Stephen Kelsey. Amy, can you hear us? Amy?
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to speak in favor of draft map 10.0 as it relates to LD17. Combining regions like Saddlebrook Ranch, Oro Valley, Marana, Tanque Verde Valley, and the Houghton Corridor, due to their similarities, is sensible. My neighbors, my husband, my family, and I, we shop, we recreate, and we worship in these districts. And frankly, we deserve better representation. Also, these unincorporated regions of Pima County are home to those of us who have purposely chosen to live outside of a large urban area. Many of us fled Midtown Tucson to seek refuge from the city of Tucson. I see LD17 as a place that residents like me can find a voice. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cheryl Purvis. Cheryl?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm Cheryl Purvis, a resident of Broadmoor, a Midtown Tucson neighborhood. I've lived there since 2019. I moved from a suburban area in Nevada to a Midtown in order to enjoy the amenities of a city. District 17 of the currently adopted legislative map violates the guidelines of the Arizona Constitution with respect to at least 3 goals. It violates Goal C, districts shall be geographically compact and contiguous. Goal E, district lines shall use visible geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries in undivided census tracts. And F, competitive districts should be favored. This proposed district is neither compact nor contiguous, and the visible geographic boundaries are not respected. The almost 57,000-acre Push Ridge Wilderness Area and Santa Catalina Mountains separate the northwestern from the southeastern part of the district. The district as proposed would be highly non-competitive and has been proposed specifically with the unconstitutional goal of being non-competitive. On the other hand, the map proposed by Commissioner Lerner as LD Test Map version 9.0 is much more competitive and also respects the constitutional goals of being compact, contiguous, and respecting visible geographic features. And therefore, that map, Commissioner Lerner's map, should be adopted as the proposed draft map for District 17. With respect to my Midtown neighborhood, Broadmoor, Commissioner Lerner's map is also superior to the currently adopted legislative draft map. In the currently adopted map, my neighborhood is part of proposed legislative District 21, which stretches at least 70 miles to the Mexican border, a largely rural and sparsely populated area, which is unlikely to have much in common with the neighborhood concerns we share with other Tucson Midtown neighborhoods. And therefore, Commissioner Lerner's map should also be adopted with respect to the placement of the Broadmoor Broadway Village neighborhood in her District 18. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Stephen Kelsey. Stephen?
Yes, thank you. I assume you can hear me.
Yes, please proceed.
Good. So I live at the corner of Harrison and East Broadway in Tucson, and I first want to just second all that Cheryl just said. I agree that the proposed legislative district 17 is not a good choice. The one in 9.0 is one I would support. I'm concerned because for where I live, this map of LD 17 as proposed would cut us off from our immediate neighbors in a most impractical way. And it is, as I look at it, really a blatant gerrymandering to carve out this safe district for Republican candidates. And that does undermine the goals of redistricting as set forth in the Arizona Constitution. I want to look at this, though, from a slightly different perspective, perhaps. And this is from my background in church planting, designing that for Episcopal churches over the years in different places, where what we have done is to identify centers of activity, which is really looking at neighborhoods where the building of community and new congregations will be encouraged and likely. Center of activity is, as it's been said, natural gathering place for people who live in a given area, where they already meet and worship, socialize, recreate, and so on. The purpose of this is specifically to build a sense of consensus, mutual trust, unity of purpose. And this is essential for democracy, to have a place, neighborhoods that are grounded in irenic relationships, which encourage an open exchange of ideas, experiences, and sentiment, as opposed to divisive and mistrusting relationships.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sandy Egstadi. Sandy, can you unmute yourself? After Sandy is Stan Kane and then Carol Lindley. Stan Kane, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I can. I was wondering, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Stan Kane. I'm a resident of Pima County, where I raised my children in the public school system. I'm currently spending most of my time having face-to-face conversations with residents and businesses in the current Legislative District 9, with whom I've shared the following facts in respect to your draft map version 10 Legislative District and version 7 Congressional District. The consensus of my conversations with members of the current LD9 community is not in support of the proposed LD9 map as submitted. They need minor changes, and I'll work towards a new draft proposal. Although nothing's perfect, we simply can and must do better. We need to remember the statute that drives the requirements for these maps, including natural barriers, that is enumerated, including visible geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, and undivided census maps. The combined city and county areas not only do not represent communities of interest, they ignore the differences in demographics and in the representation differences in government law as well as taxation districts. It seems to be more than an adjustment when communities that are distinct, just in terms of city versus county and compactness, is grossly ignored. Again, I'll continue to work out the minor changes needed, and I thank you for hearing my comments.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is, I don't know if, okay, Carol Lindley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thanks. Good afternoon. I'm Carol Lindley, and I live in LD10. I'm a native Arizonan, and I now live very close to where I grew up. For the last 10 years, people like me have not had sufficient representation in Pima County. One of the most populous counties in the state of Arizona really deserves fair and equitable representation of our interests. Draft map 9.0 does not accomplish that, and I believe it's disingenuous to say otherwise. It's simply the status quo, and I respectfully ask that you reject that map. I strongly support the Southern Arizona portion of draft map 10 that relates to LD 17 and represents my community of interest. When considering communities of interest for these areas, there's no doubt that we have far differing concerns and issues and have made different lifestyle choices. This is where I've cultivated friendships, do the vast majority of my shopping, go to church, and take advantage of the excellent recreational areas. Due to their rural aspects, interests, and community alignment, Saddlebrook, Marana, Oro Valley, the Tanque Verde Valley, and the Houghton Corridor should be kept together. It's no accident that people choose these places to live rather than in the city of Tucson. Please keep rural and suburban areas together rather than combining us with urban areas. Additionally, a check and balance on the city of Tucson needs to be implemented, and the unincorporated areas of Pima County, along with the smaller towns, provide for that through LD 17. Additionally, I totally agree that the city of Tucson should be kept in one congressional district, not split. For the first time in 10 years, LD 17 provides all Southern Arizonans a voice. Please allow us this opportunity. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help and all of your work.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nolan Redhead. Nolan?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, I want to appreciate the commission for all the hard work that you're doing. It's a very difficult task, and we appreciate your time and effort. I live in unincorporated Pima County next to Oro Valley, and I have so for about 23 years now. And I want to continue to support you in your proposed map of 10.0. I'm hearing a lot of talk that the proposed legislative district 17 is not according to the Constitution because it's not competitive. Well, as you, the commission, know, the competition is only to be considered where there is no significant detriment to the other goals. And so these corridors that you're talking about, Oro Valley, Marana, Saddlebrook, the Tanque Verde Valley, the Houghton Corridor, they do share these similar values with respect to security, proper representation, election, schools, police force. So I would encourage you to support that map 10.0. And I'm hearing a lot that it should be more competitive. Well, the proposed LD 17 is only +9 for Republican, whereas if you look at LD 20 and LD 21, LD 20 is +52 for the Democrats, and LD 21 is +33. But we're not hearing anything about that lack of competitiveness there. So competition is the last issue. I think those other factors have been met, and so I would encourage you to continue to support 10.0. And I think it meets all factors of the Constitution. And again, I really appreciate your time, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. The next three speakers are James Spiegel, Jim McFadden, and then D. Maitland. James, can you unmute yourself? There he is.
Hello, I'm Ken, and I want to
No, I'm sorry,
congratulate
Ken. Ken, I'm sorry. We're calling James Spiegel now. James, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, great, thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. What Carol Lindley and Nolan Redhead just said is exactly my sentiments exactly. I strongly support that recent legislative draft LD 10.0, specifically for LD 17 and also for LD 19. My wife and I live in Saddlebrook Ranch. We've lived in Saddlebrook before that. And both communities have much more in common with the residents of Oro Valley and Marana than we do with Northern Pinal. This is where we shop and go to restaurants. Have all our most of our services come from their service providers and utilities as well. We also believe that Marana, Tanque Verde, and Houghton Corridor residents chose a rural lifestyle, and they've chosen not to live in Midtown Tucson, which has nothing in common with the larger urban areas. And as Nolan said, the unincorporated Pima County areas and the smaller towns do need a check and balance. And LD 17 provides that. It does give conservatives a voice where we haven't had in the past. And in 9.0 is an all Democrat map stifling that voice. For LD 19, which includes rural southeastern Arizona, it gives strong representation to ranching, mining, and agricultural interest in the area, which is why we like that. It keeps Cochise County together which is where our son-in-law grew up, and combines this area with ranching communities of Sonoyta and Patagonia. So I urge the precinct committee members to support LD Map 10.0, specifically for LD 17 and LD 19. And again, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jim McFadden. Jim, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. I want to personally thank you for your time, as your charter is one that has consequences on all Arizona citizens for the next 10 years. Your task is one with a lot of merit. Thank you. I want to express my strong support of Southern Arizona portion of draft map 10.0 that relates to LD 17 as drawn. I feel it fairly represents my community interests, such as shopping areas that my wife and I frequent for groceries, household needs, etc. Our favorite restaurants are in the area between Oro Valley and Marana, with few exceptions. Our churches in the area, LD 17 is drawn. Our medical care, hospital, and doctors are all in LD 17 is drawn. And more importantly, while my kids are grown and I do reside in the Marana Union School District, I am a PC precinct committeeman, and I have been very active in school board issues. And Marana Union School District is one, which I have attended, and therefore it's something that I really want to keep within LD 17 as drawn. My wife and I both love to hike. Every trailhead that we want to hike is in LD 17 is drawn. I'm a swimmer. Swimming facilities I use are all in the same LD 17 is drawn. So in conclusion, everything that you have put in LD 17 satisfies what I feel is necessary for the area. And I want to thank you for your time and consideration. And I urge you to keep LD 17 intact as is currently drawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dee Maitland. Dee, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Very good. Thank you for doing this. My name is Dee Maitland, and I live in Marana in the Dove Mountain area that was developed by Commissioner Mell. I'm asking you to please create a legislative map that has more competitive districts. Competitive districts assure that the political parties advance their best and their brightest. They assure candidates run on solutions and positions, not political affiliation. And they assure that elected officials can be held accountable for their bad acts. Safe districts, on the other hand, produce candidates like Paul Gosar, who thinks it's fun to create a video showing him stabbing and killing a female colleague. Safe districts, like the one I'm currently in, produces a representative that follows Q, supported the fraud, is an oath keeper, and was at the insurrection. Safe districts allow the safely elected to ignore the will of the voters and close their competitors out of deliberations. How many times have 60 to 70% of voters been in favor of something only to see it never advanced because it challenges the power or inclination of the party elected by a slim majority, as is currently happening? I submitted legislative map LD 0028 for the sole purpose of keeping Pima County as intact as possible and assuring Marana and Oro Valley were not in Pinal County. I ended up with 8 competitive districts by accident. Surely you could do better on purpose. If you must gerrymander, please gerrymander competitive districts, not a district like LD 17 as it appears on your map 10.0. Thank you so much for hearing me, and you're doing good.
Thank you. The next speakers will be Ken Zabal, Diane Dvoskin, and then Dion Heiming. Ken, can you hear us?
Hey, everybody. I'm Ken. And like many of the other people, I support MAP 10.0, and I congratulate you on a job well done for that. And I also support LD 17. MAP 10.0 as proposed and LD 17 will go a long way to ensuring that my wife Liz and I, as well as our family and friends here in Saddlebrook and neighbors, will finally get fair, equitable, and sufficient representation, something we haven't had. the center of my universe, so to speak, is northern Pima County and southern Pinal County. That includes Catalina, Oracle Junction, Saddlebrook Ranch, Oro Valley, and Marana. We shop locally. We see the local medical professionals, and we belong to the Vista Church in Catalina, church of about 325 people. We do need your support, making sure that we get adequate representation. One of the things that I want to do is be sure that you know that we are currently very underrepresented, and we need the IRC's strong support on MAP 10 and LD 17 to ensure that we will finally get fair and equitable representation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Diane Dvoskini. Diane, can you hear us? We'll move to Dion Heiming. Dion, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for your time. I want to speak about the recent district draft map drawn by the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission. I strongly support map 10.0. My wife and I have lived in Oro Valley for the past 29 years. We chose to move to this community after escaping New York in 1992. My wife and I chose Oro Valley because of the excellent schools, along with its stunning beauty and the safety this community provided me and my family. The people of Oro Valley really love their police. I support the Southern Arizona portion of the map that would create LD 17. It would combine Saddlebrook Ranch, Marana, Oro Valley, the Tanque Verde Valley, and the Houghton Corridor. Residents of these areas have long believed that they have much more in common than the urban areas. We shop here, we recreate here, we use the exceptional hospitals and the medical facilities this area provides. Much like Marana and Oro Valley, the residents of Tanque Verde enjoy a rural lifestyle, as does the Houghton Corridor. These residents chose not to live in the city of Tucson because they wanted a more rural and peaceful lifestyle. I feel and they mostly feel that they don't have anything in common with the larger urban areas. Unincorporated Pima County and the smaller towns really need a check and balance on the city of Tucson, and I believe that LD 17 would provide that. LD 17 gives Republicans in Southern Arizona a fair and balanced voice, in contrast with some of the maps like 9.0, which would create a Democratic controlled area, stifling conservative representation. So I would appreciate your support of map 10.0. I thank you for your time and consideration and your hard work to the people of Arizona.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris King. Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hi, I want to show my support for the current map of 10, or the current map 10.0. As a 17-year resident of the Houghton Corridor and the Vail School District, of which I'm also a member of the Vail School District Governing Board, map 17 is the most representative of our area. It provides, while the Vail School District will still be broken up in the 3 separate legislative districts as it currently is now, this provides more of the district area to basically 2 of the districts. The Vail School District will sit majority in District 17, and I believe it's 19, the one that encompasses Cochise County. The keeping this together, this Houghton Corridor together, is the part of the reason we bought our house here. It was outside of the city of Tucson when we bought it and then incorporated into it. It's part of the Houghton Corridor and Tanque Verde Valley, moving up to Marana, which is where we do most of our life. It's school, it's church, it's friends, it's family, and keeping that is there. Tucson, the Democrats that have sat here and talked about competitiveness today are all well and good to talk about competitiveness unless it gets inside the city of Tucson, where they have fought for decades to keep Tucson non-competitive by keeping ward-only voting off of the ballot. If they truly want competitive districts, then I implore them to bring ward-only voting to the city of Tucson. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the effort and work that you have put into making these maps. We appreciate everything that you do, and we look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Have a great day.
Thank you. Our next three speakers are Anna Clark, John Maynard, and then, Connie Williams, Anna Clark, and then John Maynard. Connie, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, my name is Connie Williams. I've lived in Santa Cruz County for 30 years, retired from the Tubac Rio Rico School District, and serve on boards or am otherwise actively engaged in 6 community groups in Patagonia, Green Valley, Tubac, and Nogales. I think civic engagement is important. I followed the IRC proceedings, testified at the Nogales listening tour, and submitted a draft map that offered a workable solution for Sonoyta and Elgin. I respect the challenges you all face to create fair maps. I'm testifying today because I am deeply concerned that small Santa Cruz County has been split into 2 legislative districts. 2 years ago, the U.S. Congress designated the Santa Cruz Valley as a national heritage area to celebrate our valley's history and its unique natural and cultural identity. The Santa Cruz Valley runs from the border with Mexico north, parallel the I-19 corridor through Tucson. Slicing out Tubac and Tumacacori removed 2 significant historical and cultural points, the Tubac Presidio and the Mission in Tumacacori, from cohesive legislation in the heritage area. Patagonia and the Patagonia Mountains are part of the heritage area. The Patagonia Sonoyta Creek Reserve is a featured highlight, and southeastern Arizona is headwaters of the Santa Cruz River. Absorbing all of northern and eastern Santa Cruz County into LD19 is without merit in geographical or community of interest terms, our economic ties, or our historical identity. Please respect our wishes and the boundaries of the Santa Cruz River watershed to keep Santa Cruz County whole in LD21 and linked via the Santa Cruz Valley and I-19 through Green Valley and Sahuarita. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anna Clark. Anna, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for your time today and letting us voice our opinions. As a longtime resident and very active member in the Oro Valley community, today I would like to voice my support for the Southern Arizona portion of LD Map 10.0. LD 17 specifically combines Saddlebrook Ranch, Marana, Oro Valley, the Tanque Verde Valley, and the Houghton Corridor. Residents of Saddlebrook Ranch and Saddlebrook are part of our community. They have much more in common with us in Oro Valley and Marana than they do in Northern Pinal. They shop here in Oro Valley, get medical treatment here, go to church here, and their friends are here. Just like Marana, the communities of the Tanque Verde Valley live in a rural lifestyle, as does the Houghton Corridor. As residents of these communities, we have actively chosen not to live in the city of Tucson and have nothing in common with these urban areas. Like others that have already said before me, unincorporated Pima County and the smaller surrounding towns need a check and a balance on the city of Tucson. LD 17 provides that. Finally, LD 17 gives Republicans in Southern Arizona a voice. In contrast, LD Map 9.0 creates an all-Democrat map, silencing that voice. I strongly support Map 10.0 and would like to see it adopted as our final map. Marana, Oro Valley, Saddlebrook Ranch, the Tanque Verde Valley, and the Houghton Corridor belong together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Maynard.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, commissioners. I appreciate the hard work. Obviously, you put a lot of work in drafting the maps as we've gone along. I want to strongly support draft map 10.0 as drawn, and in particular, LD 17. It is absolutely my community of interest. It's where 4 of my children and 8 of my grandchildren live. It's where I work. It's where I worship. It's where I shop. 2 of my favorite restaurants are nearby. my favorite coffee shop. It's where my grandchildren go to school, where my older daughter teaches school, where my younger daughter works. I have friends and neighbors that have similar lifestyles, interests, educations, and background. I belong to and attend meetings of business and civic organizations in the area. I routinely attend school board meetings in the area. Oh, by the way, I'm not a domestic terrorist. It's absolutely perfect. Please adopt as is. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Carolyn Shaffer. Carolyn, can you hear us?
Yes, and you can hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please.
And thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the redistricting process. I have not only resided in Santa Cruz County for 26 years, I have lived an actively involved life in working with many people across the county who are focused on protecting and enhancing the true wealth of this county, our public lands, our diversity, and our cultural history. As the owner of a retail business for 15 years in Patagonia, I know firsthand that this area is a worldwide destination for nature-based activities. Santa Cruz County is the smallest county in Arizona based on geographic size and is one of the smallest based on population and per capita income. It is also reported that Santa Cruz County has the highest quality of life. I believe that quality of life reflects the residents being actively engaged in co-creating a thriving community for all. Based on my experience, I implore you not to divide Santa Cruz County into different legislative districts. All of Santa Cruz County is a community of interest with visible geographic features. The headwaters of the Santa Cruz River are in San Rafael Valley, and the Sonoyta Creek watershed is a major tributary to the Santa Cruz River. A significant part of Santa Cruz County is identified as a global biodiversity hotspot, recognized by many scientists as one of the top regions in the world most in need of protection for species survival. The Patagonia Mountains on the southeastern Santa Cruz County border are key to Santa Cruz County's future well-being. In order to best protect this community of interest, it is critical that all of Santa Cruz County be as one district rather than being divided in two and assigned to other districts. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Karen Wilkinson. Karen, it looks like you have two different devices, so you're going to want to mute one so we don't get that echo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Karen, but you've got to mute your other device that you're on.
Well, I turned it off. Is it okay now?
Karen, we're still getting a pretty bad echo.
Okay.
Okay, Karen, let's come back to you. Okay, so the next speaker is Mary Kieran. Mary?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Mary Kierans. I moved to Arizona in 1985. I spent 23 years as a successful employee benefits insurance consultant, working with large employers in Southern Arizona, including Tucson Electric Power, Tucson Medical Center, El Rio, Tucson Airport Authority, and more. I am now retired, and I live in the Catalina foothills near Sabino Canyon. I'm here to object to the draft map 10.0 for LD 917 district. This district does not meet the IRC criteria in several ways. As drawn, LD 17 map is not compact and contiguous. You would have to leave LD 17 and cross other LDs to drive from one part of the district to the other. This map does not represent communities of interest being kept together. The foothills area has little in common with Vail or the far northern section of this district. And it is clearly not competitive according to the mapping specialists' reports. All three of these are specific requirements for the IRC. At the last meeting in October, it was specifically stated that this map was drawn to create another Republican district in Pima County. This is unconstitutional. This goes against the IRC regulations and should not be permitted. I urge the entire commission to return to LD Test Map version 9.0 as proposed by Commissioner Lerner. Return LD 17 to a compact district, recognizing communities of interest and making it a competitive district. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Karen Wilkinson. I think we fixed it. Can you hear us, Karen?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, that sounds great.
Great. Okay, I'm Karen Wilkinson, and I live in what is now Legislative District 9. It's been a competitive district that has worked well for 10 years. I'm concerned about the proposed map of LD 17 because it does not comply with the requirements for redistricting set out in the Arizona Constitution. It is not compact, it is not contiguous or competitive. By circling around the perimeters of Tucson from Oro Valley to Vail, it connects disparate communities that have very little to do with each other. The result of this odd-shaped district would be a disservice to all voters, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, because it favors one party. When one party is obviously dominant, politicians don't have to work for votes, voters don't get involved, and the outcome is predetermined. Competitiveness in every district makes politicians more responsive and encourages engagement. In coming up with the new map, please don't make competition less important than the other criteria. I urge you to use draft map LD 9.0 that Commissioner Lerner proposed. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. And the next speaker is H. Pulliam. Can you unmute yourself? We've sent you a request to unmute. There we go. All right, we'll move on to Cameron Toring. Cameron?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. My name is Cameron Toring. I'm a previous nonpartisan legislative staffer and a current certified limit practice student under Rule 39C of the Arizona Supreme Court. I'm here today to voice my concern regarding Legislative District 17 and its maybe conflict with case law under Arizona Minority Coalition for Fair Redistricting versus the Arizona Redistricting Commission. I have great respect for Vice Chairman Mell and his dedication to grouping together Marana, Oro Valley, and Saddlebrook. I think it's a fantastic idea. However, I have grave concerns that grouping together members of the Houghton Corridor, like myself, who actually live within the Tucson city limits, may be a violation of the Communities of Interest case law. Communities of interest, as you guys I'm sure have heard 7 trillion times, you guys are much more patient than I, are very important to making sure that we comply with both Arizona court law and Supreme Court law in designing proper districts. The residents of Vail, Tanque Verde, and the Houghton Corridor live most of their life and spend most of their time within Metro Tucson. This drawing of LD 17 with Oro Valley, Saddlebrook, and Marana raises concerns about the geographic features and the exclusion of communities of interest. By excluding residents of Tucson proper from Metro Tucson, I worry about limited voter disenfranchisement. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions, and thank you, commissioners, for putting up with all the public comments. I have to say you're all much more selfless than I would be in your position. Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next speaker is H. Pulliam.
I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. My name is Howard Ronald Pulliam. Ron Pulliam. I go by my middle name. I live in Patagonia. I moved to Arizona in 1971. I live in Patagonia, Arizona. So many points have been made, and appreciate the willingness of the commission to listen to the voters and our concerns. Most of everything has been said, so I'll just simply say I strongly favor map 9.0 for a variety of reasons, one of which, of course, is we've heard over and over again, don't split Santa Cruz County. We are a cohesive unit that we need to work together. I want to point out something that hasn't come up, and that is, many of you may know, or some of you may know, that in 1890, John Wesley Powell proposed that political subdivisions in the West should be based on watershed basis. And that's certainly true for our community, the headwaters in Sonoran to the Santa Cruz River. The Sonoran Creek is a community that shares a water resource that needs to be protected. We need to work together, and it's a logical way to organize our government. I want to thank you for your listening to me and urge you very much to support keeping Santa Cruz County together and MAP 9.0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next 4 speakers will be Mary Buckman, Sharon Edgard, Matt Perilli, and then Carissa Sipp. Mary Buckman.
Hello. I know that Florence is going to be having an in-meeting person tomorrow, but I'm not able to go to that. Can I go ahead and give my comments today?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. So I live in Coolidge, and the communities that are part of my daily life and connections are mainly Florence, Casa Grande, Eloy, and Santan Valley somewhat. So these are increasing in population because the home development, but most of those might be involved with going to Tucson, Phoenix metro area for jobs. We're primarily agricultural and rural, and because of that, I would like to propose these recommendations for the redistricting of LD16 and CD6. So for CD6, I would recommend Eloy and Florence and Southern Santan to be added. It's very important that our rural communities do have community of interest held together. And then for LD16, I believe Pima County should not be a part of it at all. Again, keeping Pinal County separate from Pima County is also adhering, I believe, to the community of interest criteria. So my other concern is the proposed map goes all the way to Gila Bend in Maricopa County. Instead, I would suggest adding Santan Valley, which would be a natural fit, more of the rural Pinal County, and again, part of the community of interest criteria. So just to recap that, I'd like to keep both LD16 and CD6 in Pinal County only, not in Pima County or Maricopa County. Thank you again for listening to my concerns and the work you're doing for our endeavors.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sharon Edgar. Sharon, can you hear us?
Hello, I'm from Coconino County. I would like to talk about the draft map version of CD2. If I'm reading the map correctly, it has Achin, Gila River, Havasupai, Hopi, Wallapai, Kaibab Paiute, Navajo, Pueblo of Zuni, San Carlos Apache, San Juan Southern Paiute, Tonto Apache, White Mountain Apache, Yavapai Apache, Yavapai Prescott tribes. They are all in CD2. I'm very concerned that you've diluted their votes by adding in Prescott and that part of Yavapai County to make CD2 a non-competitive Republican district. Prescott is highly Republican, and that area of Prescott will be in a Republican district, whether they're in a district with the Navajo Nation or they're in a district with Mojave County. They will be represented either way, but not so much for the Navajo Nation. The only reason to put Prescott in a district with the Navajo Nation and a dozen other tribes is to dilute the Native American vote. Please don't do that. Please make CD2 a highly competitive district. Thank you for listening to my concerns. We appreciate your service to this state.
Our next speaker is Carissa Sipp. Carissa?
Hi, I'm here today to talk about the constitutional bound objectives of the commission and how they're being disregarded in the draft map for Southern Arizona, specific to the LD17 creation at the bidding of a partisan map submitted illegally disguised as a public submittal. The creation of this politically safe district for the party submitting the map unfairly impacted other districts LD21, LD10, and CD2. The objectives of the draft maps are as follows in no particular order. Districts shall comply with the U.S. Constitution and Voting Rights Act. Congressional districts shall have equal population to the extent practicable, and state legislative districts shall have equal population. Districts shall be geographically compact and contiguous. District boundaries shall respect communities of interest. District lines shall use visible geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, and undivided census tracts. Competitive districts should be favored where to do so would create no significant detriment to the other goals. These criteria absolutely all matter. Competitiveness, as ruled by the Arizona Supreme Court in 2008, is absolutely critical to the survival of the democratic practices and choice of leaders. The court rules that the competitiveness goal cannot be considered less mandatory than the other goals, ignored, or relegated to a secondary role. Yet in shifting LD17 from a competitive to a non-competitive district in service of partisan outcomes, the commission is doing exactly this, drawing this district into a safe district for one party, the party that submitted the map. As a result of this non-competitive party-leaning Southern Arizona mapping of LD17, you have impacted LD21 into a gerrymandered district that separates core Tucson neighborhoods from the rest of Tucson. It also shifts much of this area from a previously competitive district into a safe Democratic district and makes LD17 a safe Republican district. We need competitive districts that are drawn responsibly in accordance with the Constitution, not across party lines. The best way to represent voters is to give them a competitive.
Thank you. Our next two speakers and our last two speakers will be Michael Bryan and then Steve McEwen. Michael?
Thank you, commissioners, for being here, and thank you for your attention. My name is Michael Bryan. I'm an attorney residing in Central Tucson for the past 20 years. I'd like to emphasize to the commissioners that the IRC was created by Arizona voters primarily to generate more competitive districts than would occur if the legislature continued to control the process. I quote the Arizona Constitution regarding the IRC's mission to oversee the mapping of fair and competitive congressional and legislative districts. But far too many of the maps currently under consideration fail to provide the vast majority of Arizonans with competitive districts at either the federal or the state level. I therefore urge the commission to reevaluate how they prioritize their mission, away from striving to provide some minimal number of competitive districts and toward maximizing competitiveness in as many districts as mathematically and constitutionally possible. I'd also remind the commissioners that political party affiliation alone does not and cannot define a community of interest. Therefore, using party balance primarily and explicitly to ensure a GOP majority district in Pima County, and especially to provide an oft-quoted check and balance of Metro Tucson, is not a constitutionally sound basis for mapping districts in Southern Arizona. If your goal is to minimize the legal risk to your final maps, adopting maps that slight other criteria, especially ethnic and cultural minorities, to favor the creation of a safe Republican district in Pima County would certainly fail that goal. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and our final speaker is Stephen McEwen.
Can you hear me, ma'am? Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Steve McEwen. I'm a resident of Rio Rico and the chairman of the Republican Party of Santa Cruz County. By overwhelming consensus, I've been asked to speak for the conservative citizens of Santa Cruz County. We'd like to begin by addressing the approved map for proposed LD21. In many ways dictated by constitutional guidelines, this map is a total failure. Although numbers may imply we are Democrat in numbers, we are first a border community and very rural along with the city of Nogales. We have a unique culture and on our own values, principles, and morals that we live by. Urban society does not share these principles and have proven it in the last 10 years of failed representation as a result of the gerrymandering from the last IRC. We strongly suggest that our little county not be split up and that the committee considers that we have large ranches in this region and very rich mine, South 32. We would respectfully argue we have much more in common with the proposed LD19. We would suggest that you add Santa Cruz County in whole with LD19. This change would put Santa Cruz County in compliance with all 6 guidelines. We feel your efforts in creating congressional districts is nearly success. We do have some concerns about proposed Cd7. Once again, we would emphasize that we are a rural area and have little in common with community interest in urban society. Understanding that Cd7 will not be created in a Republican majority, we would ask that competitive numbers be within 20%, so that our issues on the border are represented by the people and not by the politics of Washington, D.C. As with our culture on the border, the issues here are ours to manage and suffer with. It is our fences that are being torn down, our mines that are being sequestered by special interest groups, our families that are being forced into drug trafficking, our women and children that are being stolen and sold in human trafficking, and our schools and hospitals that are being overburdened with non-tax paying people when they come here illegally.
Thank you. That was the last speaker. I want to let everyone know again that you can, if you did get a chance to speak today, or if you aren't able to attend any of the in-person meetings, that you can submit your comments via several different locations on the mapping hub at irc.gov. I'm sorry, irc.az.gov. And I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Meal to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you all for joining us today. It was very interesting, and we had a lot of very good comments. So we appreciate that. Please go online and submit a map using our mapping software at irc.az.gov. Our next in-person public hearing is tomorrow, Saturday, November 13th at the Kroc Community Center in South Phoenix, and in Florence at the Town of Florence Community Center. And with this, we hereby adjourn the meeting. Thank you.